11 morning habits that are quietly destroying your memory. Have you ever noticed how your memory seems to get worse and worse as the years go by? Could it be that your own morning routines are secretly sabotaging your brain while you don't even realize it? What if I told you that small gestures you make every day when you wake up may be accelerating the aging of your brain? Recent studies from Harvard University and the Mayo Clinic reveal that our morning routines have a much more profound impact on our brain health than we imagined. What you do in the first 90 minutes after waking up literally shapes the future of your brain and can determine whether you'll keep your memories intact in old age. The good news is that identifying and correcting these harmful habits can not only halt cognitive decline, but also reverse damage already done. Neuroscience experts now confirm that small changes in the morning routine can strengthen the neural connections responsible for the formation and retrieval of memories. You'll be surprised to discover how seemingly harmless gestures can have devastating consequences over time. Let's get started. 1. The morning fast. That's literally eating away at your brain cells. Skipping breakfast is not only a common habit, but a real silent killer for your brain. When you wake up, your body has gone through an overnight fast of 8 to 10 hours on average. Your brain, which consumes 20% of your body's energy, is desperately begging for nutrients. Ignoring this need forces your body into survival mode, prioritizing vital functions and sacrificing higher cognitive processes. Researchers at the University of Tokyo found that people who regularly skip breakfast have a 43% higher risk of developing mild cognitive impairment. Prolonged fasting triggers the release of cortisol and other stress hormones that literally begin to destroy the delicate connections between neurons. Neuroimaging studies show reduced activity in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, in just 3 hours after skipping a morning meal. Glucose is the primary fuel for your brain cells, and without it, mitochondria begin to fail. This energetic failure in the cell's power plants leads to accelerated neuronal death, especially in regions associated with short-term memory. Dr. Mark Mattson, a neuroscientist at the National Institute on Aging, confirms that sudden glucose fluctuations in the morning can have devastating long-term effects. And most alarmingly, you may be suffering brain damage without noticing any immediate symptoms. But what would happen if you knew exactly what your brain needs in the early hours of the day? 2. The invisible thirst trap that shrinks your brain daily. Did you know that your brain loses approximately 8 ounces of water during sleep? This nocturnal dehydration is one of the biggest threats to your cognition, and most people ignore it completely. The first feeling of thirst in the morning isn't just discomfort. It's a critical warning sign that your brain is already suffering. Studies from the University of Connecticut reveal that just 2% of dehydration reduces cognition by 30%. Researchers using MRI have found that the brain literally shrinks when dehydrated, moving away from the skull. This physical contraction of brain tissue disrupts the delicate neural connections responsible for the formation and retrieval of memories. Dehydration also thickens your blood, reducing the flow of oxygen and essential nutrients to your brain cells. Neuroscientists at the University of East London have found that drinking water before cognitive tasks can increase mental performance by up to 30%. Dr. Adden, a leading researcher in cognition, says that proper hydration in the morning is just as important as sleep for brain function. The consequences are cumulative. Years of morning dehydration can accelerate brain aging by up to a decade. The most dangerous thing is that by the time you finally feel thirsty, your brain has already been significantly compromised for hours. But what if there was a simple way to reverse that damage before your day even begins? 3. The caffeine overdose. That masks the collapse of your memory. That steaming cup of coffee may seem like your morning savior, but it may be orchestrating a silent cognitive disaster. Consuming caffeine within the first 30 minutes of waking up directly interferes with your body's natural cortisol production. This hormonal misalignment creates a vicious cycle of addiction while compromising your brain's ability to form new memories. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that too much caffeine blocks adenosine receptors crucial for memory consolidation. Excessive caffeine intake in the morning increases norepinephrine levels, creating a state of false alertness that masks cognitive deficit. Excessive caffeine in the first few hours causes microspasms in the brain's blood vessels, temporarily reducing blood flow by up to 25%. Studies from the University of Barcelona reveal that this pattern of consumption can lead to accelerated deterioration of white matter in the brain. Dr. Michael Yassa, a neuroscientist at the University of California, Davis, warns about the caffeine paradox. It improves attention while impairing memory consolidation. People who consume more than 300 milligrams of caffeine first thing in the morning have an increased risk of developing tolerance and dependence. This dependence creates cycles of peaks and falls that stress the neural system and accelerate brain aging. Most worryingly, your brain silently adapts, masking damage while you believe you're more alert and productive. What would happen if you figured out the perfect time for that first cup, maximizing benefits and eliminating risk? 4. The sweet breakfast poison that accelerates brain aging. That muffin, sugary cereal, or processed juice may seem harmless, but it's silently eating away at your cognitive ability. Studies from the University of Sydney reveal that morning meals rich in simple sugars trigger brain inflammation in just 15 minutes. This inflammation directly attacks the hippocampus, the brain region crucial for forming and storing new memories. Researchers at New York University have identified alarming connections between morning insulin spikes and accelerated cognitive decline. Regular consumption of high-sugar breakfasts can increase the risk of dementia by up to 65% over a lifetime. The glycation caused by morning sugar literally caramelizes essential brain proteins, making them dysfunctional and accelerating neural aging. Neuroimaging shows that just 3 weeks of a high-sugar breakfast reduces hippocampal volume by measurable percentages. Dr. Fernando Gomez-Pinilla from UCLA proved that processed sugar interferes with the production of BDNF, a protein essential for the formation of memories. This caramel effect on the brain is particularly devastating in the early hours of the day, when your metabolism is at its most sensitive. Your brain is especially vulnerable to sugar damage in the morning due to reduced levels of protective enzymes after overnight fasting. The scariest thing is that many foods considered healthy for breakfast contain hidden sugars that cause this same damage. What if you could turn your morning coffee into a powerful brain protection tool instead of a silent weapon against your memory? 5. The first look at the phone. That rewires your brain to fail. That seemingly harmless impulse to check your phone when you wake up is rewiring your brain in deeply damaging ways. Neuroscientists at Stanford University have found that checking your cell phone in the first few minutes after waking up drastically alters brainwaves. This habit forces your brain to abruptly exit the theta state, which is crucial for memory consolidation during the transition from sleep to wakefulness. The blue light emitted by the cell phone screen immediately suppresses melatonin production, disrupting your circadian rhythm and cognitive function. The bombardment of information as soon as you wake up overloads your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making and working memory. Morning exposure to social media releases small doses of dopamine that addict your brain to fragmented stimuli, gradually destroying your capacity for sustained attention. Researchers at the University of California, San Diego have proven that this habit reduces gray matter density in critical brain regions. Dr. Sarah Mednick, a sleep neuroscientist, warns that this behavior robs the critical period of sleep inertia, which is vital for memory integration. Studies show that people who check their phones immediately upon waking up perform 37% worse on memory tests. This habit creates a constant state of continuous partial attention that prevents your brain from forming deep and lasting neural connections. The most disturbing thing is that this neural reprogramming happens silently, day after day, without you noticing the gradual deterioration. What if you found out that the first 30 minutes of your day determine how your brain will function for the next 24 hours? 6. The morning mental overload. That burns your neural circuits. Trying to multitask when you wake up is like forcing a cold car to immediately run at top speed. Neuroscientists at Stanford University have found that morning multitasking reduces brain efficiency by a staggering 40%. Your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functions, is still warming up in the first few hours after waking up. Requiring it to quickly switch between tasks in this vulnerable state causes micro damage to neural connections that build up over time. Research from the University of London reveals that this morning behavior can temporarily reduce your IQ by up to 15 points. Cognitive overload in the early hours of the day quickly depletes essential neurotransmitters, creating a brain deficit that persists for up to 6 hours. Dr. Earl Miller, a neuroscientist at MIT, categorically states that the human brain was not designed for multitasking, especially right after awakening. This pressure on still sleepy neural circuits causes excessive release of cortisol, the stress hormone that damages the hippocampus. Studies using PET scans show chaotic and inefficient brain activity during morning multitasking, in contrast to ordered patterns in sequential tasks. This habit creates a neurological pattern of shallow processing that becomes your default brain mode over time. What's more alarming is that the more you practice morning multitasking, the more your brain loses the ability to focus deeply permanently. What would happen if you figured out the ideal sequence of morning activities that powers your brain instead of overloading it? 7. The false time saver. That is stealing your future memories. Skipping workouts in the morning may seem like buying precious time, but it's a high-interest loan against your brain health. Researchers at the University of Illinois have demonstrated that just 20 minutes of morning physical activity increases hippocampal volume by up to 2%. This physical increase in the region responsible for memory translates directly into better capacity for information retention and retrieval. Morning exercise triggers the release of BDNF, often called brain fertilizer, by neuroscientists. Postponing or eliminating morning physical activity reduces cerebral blood flow by up to 15% during the most productive hours of the day. Body movement right after waking up activates specific genes that protect against cognitive decline and literally build new brain cells, even in older adults. Studies from the University of British Columbia reveal that morning aerobic exercise increases the production of growth factors that repair brain damage. Dr. Wendy Suzuki, a neuroscientist at NYU, has proven that physical activity in the morning creates a cognitive reserve that protects against age-related decline. People who are sedentary in the morning have a 35% increased risk of developing mild cognitive impairment before the age of 60. This morning sedentary lifestyle also reduces the brain's ability to eliminate toxic proteins that accumulate during sleep. Most worryingly, this damage is cumulative and silent. You only notice it when you've lost significant cognitive ability. What if you found out what specific type of morning movement works as a superfuel for your brain? 8. The deprivation of morning light that disrupts your entire cognitive system. Staying in dark environments or with artificial light in the early hours of the day triggers a cascade of neurological imbalances. Researchers at Northwestern University have found that exposure to natural morning light is crucial for synchronizing more than 100 biological rhythms in the brain. Without this precise synchronization, neurotransmitters essential for memory are released at the wrong times of the day. Morning sunlight activates specific receptors in the retina that directly regulate the production of serotonin and dopamine in the brain. Studies from the University of Toronto show that people with insufficient exposure to morning light have 19% less activity in the prefrontal cortex. Deprivation of natural light in the early hours of the day literally shuts down genes responsible for neural repair and the formation of new synaptic connections. Dr. Phyllis Z, a neurologist specializing in sleep, proved that just 15 minutes of morning sun exposure improves cognition for up to 8 hours. Artificial light, even bright, cannot replicate the full spectrum required for these critical neurological benefits. Working indoors right after waking up can reduce BDNF production by up to 40% compared to sun exposure. This deficit of natural light accelerates age-related cognitive decline and is linked to a higher risk of dementia. The most serious thing is that this habit creates chronic social jet lag, confusing brain systems dependent on precise rhythms. What would happen if you knew the exact timing and optimal duration of light exposure that could radically transform your brain health? 9. Oral neglect. That opens the doors to brain toxins. Neglecting oral hygiene in the morning isn't just an aesthetic or social issue, it's a serious threat to your brain health. Researchers at the University of Louisville have found that oral bacteria that proliferate during the night can enter the bloodstream first thing in the morning. These bacteria produce endotoxins that cross the blood-brain barrier and trigger neuroinflammation, particularly in the hippocampus. Epidemiological studies show an alarming correlation between inadequate oral hygiene and a 47% increase in the risk of dementia. Untreated gingivitis allows oral pathogens to release compounds that directly interfere with the formation and retrieval of memories. The bacteria accumulated during sleep release acids that not only damage your teeth, but also produce toxins that travel to your brain and attack the neural cells responsible for memory. NYU researchers have identified DNA from oral pathogens in brain tissue samples from early-stage Alzheimer's patients. Dr. Angela Kammer, a specialist in periodontics and neurology, has established direct links between morning oral inflammation and accelerated cognitive decline. Saliva contains protective enzymes that are drastically reduced during sleep, making the first hour after waking up the most vulnerable. Delaying oral hygiene, even for 60 minutes after waking up, allows harmful bacteria to multiply exponentially. Most alarmingly, this neurological damage occurs silently for years or decades before cognitive symptoms become evident. What if a simple change to your morning hygiene routine could protect your brain against one of the biggest risk factors for dementia? 10. The morning medication mistake that sabotages your mental clarity. The way you take your medications in the morning may be inadvertently compromising your cognitive function throughout the day. Pharmacologists at Yale University have found that taking certain medications on an empty stomach can drastically alter their absorption and neurological effects. Many common medications, antihypertensives, antidepressants, statins, have cognitive side effects that are amplified when taken incorrectly in the morning. Clinical studies show that ignoring specific food instructions can increase cognitive adverse effects by up to 70%. Combining medications with caffeine in the early hours of the day can trigger interactions that impair working memory. Taking medication at the wrong time of day can completely misalign your circadian rhythms, creating a chronic state of pharmacological jet lag that silently deteriorates your brain function. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania have demonstrated that chronopharmacology, the precise timing of medication, is just as important as dosage. Dr. Michael Smolensky, an expert in medical chronobiology, has proven that the same drug can have drastically different neurological effects depending on the time. Many patients experience medication-related cognitive deficits without ever making the connection to their morning routine. This problem is particularly severe in older adults who take multiple medications and already face age-related cognitive challenges. Most worryingly, doctors rarely consider the cognitive impact when prescribing morning medications. What would happen if you figured out the perfect schedule for your medications that maximizes benefits and eliminates cognitive side effects? 11. Excessive sleep on the weekend that destroys your brain. Routine. Getting a lot more sleep on the weekends seems like a well-deserved reward, but it's quietly sabotaging your brain health. Neuroscientists at the University of Berkeley have found that drastically altering their sleep schedules disrupts the molecular clocks in crucial brain cells. This phenomenon, called social jet lag, confounds the circadian rhythms that regulate the release of neurotransmitters essential for memory. Research shows that every hour difference between your weekday and weekend wake-up time increases your risk of cognitive decline. Your hippocampus is particularly sensitive to these rhythm changes, showing a measurable reduction in plasticity after just 2 weekends of excessive sleep. Extreme fluctuations in sleep patterns destroy the integrity of REM sleep cycles, which are essential for memory consolidation, creating an accumulative deficit that your brain can't compensate. Dr. Matthew Walker, director of the UC Berkeley Sleep Science Center, likens social jet lag to a chronic brain metabolic dysfunction. Neuroimaging studies reveal that individuals with inconsistent sleep schedules have weaker connections between the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. This neural disconnect directly compromises the transfer of memories from short to long term, which is essential for learning. Making up for lost sleep during the week with marathon sleep on the weekend does more harm than good to your brain. Most disturbingly, your brain never fully adapts to this irregular pattern, undergoing a traumatic neurological reset every Monday. What if the solution to exceptional memory wasn't to sleep more on the weekends, but to establish a consistent rhythm that your brain can depend on? Transform your morning routine and save your memory. Now that you know these 11 devastating habits, it's time to turn your morning routine into a powerful brain protection ritual. Remember that your brain is incredibly resilient and adaptable, even after years of harmful habits. Neuroscientists at Harvard University confirm that the brain can begin to regenerate in just 72 hours after positive changes. By correcting these habits one morning at a time, you're literally rebuilding neural circuits and strengthening your memory capacity. Every small positive change to your morning routine triggers a cascade of neurological benefits that amplify over time, creating a compounding effect that can add decades of cognitive health to your life. Imagine waking up every day feeling mental clarity, ease in retrieving memories, and confidence in your cognitive ability. This future isn't just possible, it's likely when you consciously redesign your morning routine based on the principles of modern neuroscience. Dr. Lisa Geneva, a Harvard neuroscientist and best-selling author, emphasizes that our daily choices have a greater impact on our brain health than our genetics. You have the power to turn every morning into an opportunity to strengthen your brain instead of weakening it. The real secret is not in drastic changes, but in small, consistent adjustments that become automatic habits. Start tomorrow by eliminating just one of these harmful habits, and watch as your mental clarity and memory capacity begin to improve. Your memory isn't a fixed resource destined to deteriorate. It's a dynamic skill that responds directly to the care you provide. How about taking advantage of this knowledge to create, starting today, a morning routine that not only preserves, but also amplifies your cognitive capabilities? Your future self, with a sharp memory and clear mind even at an advanced age, will thank you for the decisions you make now.